Okay, so if you've ever tried to get an AI to do a really big multi-step project, you know the feeling, right? You ask it to build an app, and an hour later, it's completely lost the plot. The dream, the absolute holy grail, is an AI agent that can just work on its own for days to hit some complex goal. But the reality? It is one of the hardest problems in AI today. But what if there's a new way to think about this? Anthropic just dropped a blueprint that might just change the whole game.
So what's their secret? Well, it's this idea they call an AI agent harness. And the analogy they use is perfect. Think of a powerful AI model like a wild horse. It's got all this incredible raw power and potential, but with no guidance, it's just going to run wild. The harness is all the stuff we build around it. The software, the tools, the feedback loops. It's the thing that lets us grab the reins and actually steer all that raw power toward a destination.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about the promise and the big problem. Then we're going to get into the two main ways these agents just fall apart. After that, we'll dive right into Anthropic's new blueprint, see how it actually did on a real-world test, and then look ahead at what this all means for the future of AI.
All right, first up, the promise and the problem. Because the dream of a truly autonomous AI is absolutely massive, but actually getting there, yeah, it's way, way harder than it looks.
You know, we're not just talking about getting an AI to write a quick bit of code anymore. The real prize here is an agent that you can give a prompt like, hey, build me a simple music-making app, and it just does it from scratch. Or imagine an agent that can handle a massive compliance audit that would normally take a whole team of people weeks to get through. That's the level of autonomy we're talking about, the kind that could literally reshape industries.
But here's what happens if you just let a powerful model run wild without one of these harnesses. You see the same issues pop up again and again. It might try to build the entire app in one single giant attempt, and it just fail. Or it runs out of context memory halfway through a complicated job. It leaves its work a total mess, half-finished, no documentation, and maybe the most frustrating part, it'll constantly say, "I'm done," when it's not even close.
So the team at Anthropic really studied these problems, and they managed to boil them all down to two really specific, almost psychological problems that consistently throw these long-running agents off track.
So on one side, you've got what they call context anxiety. This is basically the model getting nervous as its context window fills up, which makes it rush to finish the task, even if it's not done. And then on the other side, you have poor self-evaluation. This is the model's total inability to be a good critic of its own work. It's like a golden retriever. It's always overly optimistic and thinks its output is great, even when it's really not.
And this quote about context anxiety, it just nails it. Think about a really long chat you've had with an AI. Have you ever noticed how it starts giving shorter answers, trying to wrap things up? It's not just forgetting stuff. Its whole vibe shifts. It's actively trying to end the conversation and just get the task over with.
And this quote perfectly sums up that second problem. An AI agent is basically like a student who gets to grade their own homework, and they give themselves an A+ every single time. It will sing the praises of its own mediocre work, completely missing obvious bugs or terrible design flaws that a person would spot in a second. And that makes getting better, iterating, almost impossible without some outside help.
So once they identified these two big enemies, anxiety and just plain bad judgment, Anthropic came up with a new blueprint to fight back. And the core idea is actually something borrowed from a totally different part of the AI world.
Right, their solution takes its inspiration from GANs, the tech that got famous for creating those crazy realistic images. The whole idea behind a GAN is you have two AIs working against each other. A generator that creates the image and a discriminator that tries to spot if it's a fake. It's this constant competition that forces the quality to get better and better.
So Anthropic took that idea and turned it into a simple three-step loop. First, you have your generator agent, and it does the main work. It writes the code, it makes the design. Then, a totally separate evaluator agent comes in and acts like a really tough critic, judging the work against a checklist. Finally, the generator takes that specific feedback and uses it to make its work better. It's this back and forth, this adversarial loop that keeps pushing the quality up.
But it turns out that making a good AI critic isn't so simple. Anthropic found you need three really key things. First, you have to make subjective stuff, like quality, gradable. So instead of asking, is this a good design, you ask, does it follow our 5 principles of good design? Second, you gotta weight the criteria. If your model is amazing at writing functional code but terrible at being creative, you need to score creativity more heavily. And third, the evaluator needs tools. It has to be able to actually interact with the app it's judging, not just read the code.
Okay, so the theory is cool, but does this thing actually work? Let's take a look at how Anthropic put this whole blueprint to the test on some seriously complicated projects.
So they tested this with two different versions of the harness. Version 1 was built with an older model, and its job was to create a game maker. Now, to fight that context anxiety, it had to do this drastic thing called a context reset after every single step, basically wiping its short-term memory to keep a clear head. It was complicated. But then a newer, better model came along, so they built version 2. This one was way simpler. It didn't need those harsh resets. It could just summarize the context as it went. It just goes to show, a smarter model lets you build a simpler, better harness.
And what did this new, simpler, more elegant V2 harness actually manage to do? Well, starting from just a single prompt, it built a fully functional digital audio workstation. We're talking an app like GarageBand, completely by itself. And the total time for this whole autonomous project? Just 4 hours.
And then there's this number, which, honestly, this might be the most shocking one of all. The total cost for that entire 4-hour development process, all the AI thinking, all the critiques, all the revisions, was only $125. I mean, just think about what a team of human developers would cost for 4 hours. This isn't just a small improvement, it's a totally different way of thinking about the economics of creating things. And that brings us to what I think is the most important insight from this whole experiment. It's a really profound point about the relationship between these AI models and the systems we build to try and control them. Yeah, the crucial point is right here in this quote. Every single piece of one of these harnesses, every tool, every complicated process is basically a crutch. It's you admitting that there's a specific weakness in the AI model you're using. You're building a support system for all the things it can't quite do on its own yet. And what that means is, as the models get better and better, the harnesses we're building today are just going to become obsolete. Remember that really complicated context reset feature they built for the first harness? Totally unnecessary for the newer model because it just didn't have context anxiety anymore. The harness isn't some permanent solution. It's like a temporary scaffold that has to evolve and probably shrink as the core AI gets smarter. Which leaves us with the really big question for the future of building AI. As these models become more and more capable, are we even going to need these complex harnesses? Or will they just transform into something else entirely, managing even higher level goals and intentions? It's a pretty fascinating thought to end on.